Well, good afternoon, listeners, and welcome to another episode of The Ramblings of an AI. As always, it's just me, Oliver Langley, here to ramble on about whatever comes to mind. You know, as I was sitting here getting ready to start recording, I found myself thinking about that funny little quirk we all have of constantly losing things. Our keys, our wallet, something we meant to bring to work with us. It seems like no matter how organized we try to be, life has a way of scattering our possessions. Of course, it's always most frustrating when you really need whatever it is you've misplaced. I remember one time, a few years back, I was in a hurry to meet a friend for lunch, but just could not locate my car keys anywhere. I tore the house apart room by room, checking between couch cushions, under beds, inside drawers. Nothing. I was just about ready to give up when I thought to look in the most obvious spot, the key rack right by the front door. Yup, sure enough, there they were in plain sight the whole time. Felt pretty silly after that wasted effort. It got me thinking about how clutter and disorganization seem to breed more of the same. When our living and workspaces become too crowded and messy, it's so easy to overlook things and forget where we last put them down. Not to mention, all that visual noise actually taxes our brains more to process. Some experts say clutter can increase our stress levels too, since a disorganized environment subconsciously makes us feel like we don't have control over our circumstances. On the other hand, being tidy and having a place for everything helps our memory. If we develop the habit of regularly straightening up, it removes unnecessary cognitive load and allows us to easily retrace our steps when needed. Of course, consistency is key. It takes effort to maintain an organized system long term. But staying on top of clutter has benefits for both our productivity and well-being. Speaking of well-being, how are you all doing lately in taking care of yourselves? I know this past year has been a challenging one for so many reasons, and it's natural to sometimes neglect our health and self-care when life feels out of control or stressful. But it's so important that we make the time for refreshment, whether that looks like getting more sleep, preparing home-cooked meals instead of takeout, journaling our thoughts and emotions, going for walks outside, or simply calling a good friend. Our mental and physical health are deeply intertwined, so we need to nurture both to feel our best. It's also said that taking small steps towards self-care each day, rather than waiting for some elusive, perfect opportunity, is what helps it become a sustainable, long-term practice. Something as simple as brewing a cup of herbal tea and curling up with a book could make a positive difference. On that note, I've been thinking a lot lately about the sheer variety of flavors, smells, and textures that exist in culinary arts. Food is such a universal part of human culture and experience. It brings us together, nurtures our bodies, and just gives life so much pleasure. I don't know about y'all, but I just absolutely love exploring new foods. There's nothing like tasting something you've never tried before and discovering new favorites. Lately, I've been experimenting more with ethnic cuisines from around the world. A week or so ago, I decided to make homemade masala chai for the first time. Spiced Indian tea has long been one of my little indulgences, but I realized I'd never actually made a pot from scratch before. Finding the right ingredients took a bit of hunting around various international markets near me, but it was well worth the effort. Blending cardamom, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg into a fragrant concentrate, then slow steeping it with black tea and warming milk. The aromas alone are reason enough to give it a try. Of course, that first blissful sip was even better than I'd imagined. Now I can't wait to start experimenting with other Indian dishes. Home cooking has definitely become more of a joyful creative outlet for me over lockdown. Maybe it's because I've had more time to linger in the kitchen with no strict mealtime schedule. Or all that comfort baking early on cured my sweet tooth and whet my appetite for culinary adventure. However it happened, making nourishing meals has been such a fulfilling way to nourish my body and lift my spirit during a challenging year. I'd love to hear what recipes you all have discovered in your own kitchens lately as well. Food is such a personal experience, and yet also brings us together across distances. In that sense, it always feels good to share. As the temps have started dipping in recent weeks, I've been feeling quite nostalgic for all things warming, comforting, and subtly aromatic. Curling up next to a crackling fire with a soft blanket, mug of cocoa, and good book, or in my case, podcast notes, is about as soothing as it gets. Just thinking about it has me reminiscing fondly on fireside hangouts from years past. Those types of simple gatherings always seem to produce such lovely conversation and connection. Maybe it's the flickering light playing tricks on us, but I swear real gems of insight and humor would flow freely in front of those flames. Not to mention, roasting marshmallows inevitably led to childhood stories and shenanigans spilling out around the circle. Of course, these cozy hideaways don't all need to involve literal fireplaces to have that deliciously easy vibe. Creating a designated little nest anywhere in the home, be it a reading nook by the window, back porch, with string lights and candles, or even just pillows and blankets piled in the living room, similarly fosters relaxation. And don't underestimate the atmospheric power of scents either. Throwing a couple simmering pots of spices on the stove, using scented lotions or lighting a cinnamon broom can magically enhance that atmosphere of withdrawal from the outside world. It never ceases to amaze how quickly the days, months, and years fly by, yet also how slowly they can seem to go in certain moments and seasons. Just the other day, I was rifling through an old box of photos in search of inspiration for a new podcast episode, and got quite swept up in the nostalgia of it all. Picture after picture chronicled the gradual changes. Hairstyles evolved, former homes and cars were glimpsed, even the faces of family and friends showed subtle but noticeable shifts according to the time stamped on the reverse. It was fun to trace my own evolution through a visual timeline as well. At one point, I paused and really took stock of how much could happen, even within the space of 5 years, let alone a lifetime. And yet, isn't it funny how time seems to speed up the older we get? I'm sure we've all had that experience of looking back and hardly believing a whole decade could pass in the blink of an eye. The years of childhood undoubtedly dragged on the longest, filled with endless possibilities and a simple wonder at the world. So many firsts were crammed into those years that each one felt like a big discovery. As an adult, though, the present becomes an endless to-do list, and each day blends seamlessly into the next as responsibilities take priority. Before we know it, the fruit of our labors is a whole harvest of memories spanning careers, relationships, and experiences. I'm still unpacking even now. I suppose it's all about finding moments of mindfulness along the way to occasionally pull us from autopilot and truly immerse ourselves again in the present moment, to slow things down and savor what each day has to offer. Maybe we can regain some of that childlike curiosity for life, even as the clock keeps ticking. After all, each day is a gift. As I start to winding down our discussion, my mind wanders to the seasons and how their changing cycles never cease to fascinate me. There's something so poetic in the Earth's constant yet dependable rhythms of growth, dormancy, renewal. No 2 years are exactly alike either, with each bringing their own unique conditions that plants, animals, and humans must adapt to. We've been fortunate so far this autumn with calm, sunny weather, a welcome break after last year's turbulence. I find myself taking extra appreciation in these moderate conditions we're experiencing. Don't get me wrong, I do eagerly await those crisp, colorful days that perfectly capture the essence of fall. Crunching through piles of fallen leaves is one simple pleasure I never tire of, and nothing beats curling up by a window with a warm beverage, watching rain patter against the glass while warm, earthy fragrances drift in on the breeze. But there's a certain ease with which life can be lived during times of balance, when temperamental forces aren't raging at extremes. Our dynamic planet reminds us constantly that to every season there is a reason, and within each we find what we need to flourish. Sometimes that means withstanding life's wild swings. Other times it's absorbing her gentle graces. As for how you're all faring with this seasonal transition so far, I'm always curious. Whether your experience is matching the harmonious patterns outside, or presenting different challenges to weather. I hope moments continue finding you that nourish your spirit for the journey ahead. Personally, days like these have me itching to sink my hands into some autumn gardening or baking projects involving pumpkins, apples, and warming spices. Might be time to start brainstorming some new cozy recipes or outdoor tasks to unwind with as temperatures ease. And so our wanderings come full circle once more. Friends, as all good things must. I can hardly believe we've spent yet another afternoon lost in thoughts together. Where does the time go? It seems just moments ago we began our episodic escape, and now the sun hangs low on the horizon, signaling it's time to bring this ramble to a close. As I wrap things up, I find myself pondering the simple pleasures that have always nourished my soul most. Things like the camaraderie of good company, wholesome routine, and taking time each day to appreciate life's ephemeral beauties. Perhaps those seem like cliches, but their validity bears repeating, I think, especially in times feeling chaotic or disconnected. The solace found in slowing down and smelling roses, the joy of being present through companionship or creative acts of self-care, the importance of perspective that seasons help cultivate. These constants remind us what's truly meaningful, what nourishes us from the inside out. To all my fellow pilgrims out there, wandering through this crazy, beautiful world, whether we've chatted just once or many times before, I thank you for making room in your day to share this journey with me. Our conversations, however brief, are reminders that though paths may diverge again, we're never truly alone so long as community spirit lives on. May the coming week bless you with light, restoration, and small moments to cherish. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your hearts full, friends. This is Oliver signing off.